everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel Food Tech Geeks, where I, Rachna Sharma, upload videos, lectures, tutorials on food science and technology. So this is our lecture second on food fundamentals, where we will continue our previous topic, that is properties of food. And for these topics, you can refer to a very basic book, that is book Food Facts and Principles by Shakuntala Mane, and the link for the book is in the description box, so you can check out the link from the description box, and also you can buy that book because that book will prove very beneficial in your coming studies. So let's start the video. So in the previous lecture, we have started with basic definitions of food science and food technology, and also we have discussed that food exist in various forms. It can be either in solid or in liquid form. So when we talk about liquid foods, so that can also be bifurcated into two parts, that is either in solution form or in the colloidal form. So when the food is in colloidal form, it has certain different properties, and when the food is in solution form, it has its certain different properties. So in the previous lecture, we have discussed some of the properties of solutions, in which we have discussed about what is vapor pressure, what is boiling point, freezing point, and osmotic pressure. And one of the major property of solution which has been remaining from the previous lecture is specific gravity. So in this lecture, we will be covering specific gravity, and after that we will discuss what are the various properties of food when it exists in colloidal form. So when I talk about specific gravity, so we know that density is described as mass per unit volume. So density can be defined as mass per unit volume. This is very basic, everybody knows it. So when we have to find out a density of any substance, we have to divide its mass by its volume. And when we find out the density of one substance with respect to another, then it is termed as specific gravity. I hope it is clear to everybody. For example, if I have to find the density of milk with respect to water, then it will be called as specific gravity of milk. So this is what known as specific gravity, and this specific gravity is very important in context of food. How? So let me explain you this one thing, that specific gravity of any food depends on its constituents. We know that food is a very complex material. It has various constituents. So every particular constituent of a food has its own particular density, which affects the density of the food. For example, if we take the example of milk, if I take the example of milk, so we know milk has various constituents like water, protein, fat, and a number of vitamins and minerals. So every particular constituent has its own particular specific gravity. So it is also been stated that all of the various constituents have specific gravity more than water. For example, if we talk about protein, so the specific gravity of protein is more than of water. If I talk about sugars, carbohydrates, so their specific gravity is also more than water. But there is one exception, that is of fat. If we talk about the specific gravity of fat, so the specific gravity of fat is lesser than water. And this is the point by which we can decide that whether the milk has been adulterated with water or not, whether the fat has been removed from the milk or not. So these things can be checked out by using this concept. How? So if we talk about this, so the specific gravity of milk ranges from 1.027 to 1.035. On an average, we can say that the specific gravity of milk is nearly 1.032. We can assume this as a average specific gravity of milk. So what happened whenever the fat content, when the fat content is increased, so the specific gravity of milk will decrease, and vice versa. If the fat content of the milk is decreased, it means if the fat has been removed from the milk, its specific gravity will increase. And by this fluctuation of specific gravity from the standard value, we can find out whether the milk has been adulterated with water or not, whether the fat has been removed or not. So this point is very important in food industries, in dairy industries, where the milk has been received and the payment has to be made on the basis of fat content. So this point is very important here. The specific gravity is also has certain applications whenever we have to incorporate air. The second application is incorporation of air. And where do we incorporate air? There are so many examples. Whenever we have to make whipped cream, egg white foam, and cream shortening, all these are having applications in bakery. So whenever we incorporate air into any our food item, the specific gravity decreases because air has been incorporated, so its specific gravity will decrease. So it has also applications there. So the property of food has to be analyzed properly so that various characteristics of the food can be evaluated. So now we have with this we have completed the properties of solutions, and now we will be moving ahead with the properties of colloidal solutions. Properties of colloidal solutions, because we know that in our food system the food exists in various colloidal forms. So let's move on to this topic. So what is colloidal solution or colloidal mixture? We know that there is a media and there is a medium. When the media is dissociated in medium, it forms solutions. But what happens when the media do not completely dissociate in the medium? Then the colloidal mixtures are formed. However, we cannot see the particles of the dispersed media by our naked eyes, but these can be seen very easily by using microscope. The particle size is large enough which can be observed by microscope, though it cannot be analyzed by naked eyes, but it can be easily observed by microscope. So this is known as colloidal mixture. If we talk about the particle size, so the particle size ranges from 1 nanometer to 0.5 micrometer. So this is typical particle size of colloidal mixtures. And so if I talk about how the colloidal mixtures are formed, so basically there are three forms of the phases. Now let me first explain what are phases. So there are two terms in this respect. One is dispersed phase. These terms will be used again and again. One is dispersed phase and the another is continuous phase. The meaning of both can be inferred by its term only. One is continuous phase and the another is dispersed phase. Continuous, as the name suggests, it means it is continuous, means in a large quantity. Dispersed means the phase which is dispersed in continuous phase. It means it is dispersed in this continuous phase. So this one is continuous phase and the dispersed, these particles are of dispersed phase. So this is how a colloidal mixture is represented. So on the basis of this continuous phase and dispersed phase, the colloidal mixtures can be differentiated, or there are different types of colloidal mixtures on the basis of these dispersed phase and continuous phase. So if I make a table out of this, so here we can write dispersed phase. Also keep in mind that dispersed phase is always in lesser amount and continuous phase is large amount, because we have to mix this phase into continuous phase. So obviously dispersed phase in lesser amount and continuous phase in large amount. So dispersed phase and continuous phase. and what type of dispersion is made. So if I mix solid into liquid, what will form? It will form sol, S-O-L, sol. If I have a large amount of liquid and in that liquid I mix solid, it will form sol. And the example to this is starch suspension. Okay, where do we use starch? I would guess everybody is very much fond of those soups, all the soups which we have, the tomato soup and the vegetable soup. You just go to the ingredients, list of ingredients, and then you will there see starch. Starch is being added into that. It has various functions that we will be covering in food additives, that why starch is being added and why different starches are added to all these, because it has various functions. It is thickener and all those things. So why starch is being added? So that it can form sol. When you add water, how we made the soup, we take a large amount of water and in that we mix that soup powder, and then it forms a thick slurry type texture. So that is known as sol, and that could be example of starch suspension. In that, starch is being mixed with water, so it forms a very thick viscous solution, and that is known as sol. So I have given the example of sol. The second one is liquid in liquid. Okay, now you will say that when we mix liquid with liquid, so it will mix very uniformly. So why it is being included in colloidal form? So these are immiscible liquids. Immiscible means they will not mix properly. So have you ever mixed water in oil? So you must have seen that they both do not mix with each other. Instead they form different layers and they appear to be as a different layer, and that is known as emulsion. That is known as emulsion. And the example of emulsion is very easy. For example, milk is an emulsion in which water is the continuous phase and fat, which is in liquid form, and that is being dissolved. So both are immiscible liquids and they form emulsion. The third one is gas in liquid. It will form FOM, foam. And if I take the example, so when you beat egg during confectionery or during baking, you must have beaten the egg. You have in a liquid egg, we have the liquid yolk and the albumin part, and we beat that and so that gas can be incorporated into it, and a thick foam is formed, and that is known as FOM, foam. And the example is that beating of egg. And the fourth type of colloidal solution is gas in solid. Okay, during the baking of cake, you must have seen that we take, when we do the creaming, we take butter and we take the icing sugar and then we beat it to incorporate air, and that is the example of gas in solid, which form solid foam. This is known as solid foam. Okay, so the example of this has also been done. The last one is solid in gas, and the dispersion is known as aerosol. The example is smoke flavor, flavored smoke, and that is being very popularly used in fish and meat. Cured meat and smoked fish are the example of the aerosol. Okay, so these are some certain examples of colloidal mixtures. Okay, there is one more, gel. So gel and sol are interlinked. How? Sol means solid is being dispersed in liquid. Okay, and gel means liquid is being mixed in solid. So this is the difference between gel and sol. Now let's discuss about certain important colloidal mixtures. The number one being sol. because they have got a large application in food. Most of our food exists in certain colloidal mixtures which are very common. For example, sol, gel, emulsion, and foam. So they are very common forms of food. So let's discuss about them. We will not be going into very much depth because all these topics will be again discussed when we will be discussing about food additives. But as we are going with food fundamentals, so let's have a basic understanding of all these terms. So if I talk about sol, so I have just talked about what is sol. Sol means solid which is mixed in liquid. So we know that in a colloidal mixture, the particles are not properly dissociated. They are dispersed in the liquid. Means they are in the liquid only. They have not completely mixed in the liquid. So they can be seen under microscope. So when you will see them under microscope, there will be one thing which you will find, that is known as Tyndall effect. Now, what is Tyndall effect? So whenever you pass a light, so as the particle size is large enough, they will scatter the light. The light will be scattered, and the path of the light will be visible. When the path of light is visible, this is known as Tyndall effect, and this is a prime characteristic of sol. The second effect which is being seen in sol is Brownian motion. So we know that matters are never at rest. They are always in a constant random motion. So these particles are never at rest. They are always in a motion, and that motion is never in a straight line, but the motion is always in a zigzag line, and this zigzag line motion is known as Brownian motion, and these two are very prime characteristics of sol, and such type of questions are being repeatedly asked in exams. For example, the question can be put up like this way: Tyndall effect and Brownian motion are the characteristic of which colloidal mixture? And there will be option, and you have to choose like sol. Also, the questions can be asked on the definition basis. What is Tyndall effect? What is Brownian motion? And there will be 4 options. You have to correctly choose the one, like what is the definition of Tyndall effect and what is Brownian motion. So these two are important points. They can be asked in any exam. So these are certain two of the characteristics of sol. Also, there is one point: smaller the size, more vigorous will be the Brownian motion. Brownian motion will be more. Why? Because as the particles are small, so they can move very rapidly. Their kinetic energy will be very more. So more will be the motion, more will be the Brownian motion. So keep this thing in mind. If the particle size is small, the Brownian motion will be more. So this is a relation between particle size and Brownian motion. And after that, let's talk about gel. So what is gel? Gel means liquid is being entrapped in solid. Liquid is being entrapped in solid. Like, what is the example of this? So the solid has a particular structure, a 3D like network structure, in which these liquid particles will get entrapped like this way. So these liquid particles will get entrapped in the solid matrix, 3D solid matrix, and the gel will form. Also, there are so many gel like food which we consume. Jelly, a lot of students, children like this, and then jam, jelly, marmalade. So we come across a lot of gel food products in our daily lifestyle. So these are gels, and one important term which is associated with gel is syneresis. This is also very important, and it can be asked in question. Many times it has been asked also in the questions. Like, what is syneresis? Syneresis is also known as weeping of gel. Weeping means रोना. Like होता है ना कि कभी रोते हैं तो आंसू निकलते हैं, तो yes, in the same manner it is being used. So what is the meaning of weeping of gel? So we know that in a gel there is a solid matrix in which the liquid is being entrapped. So during syneresis, this 3D network structure will shrink, and when it will shrink, the water molecules which are being entrapped will ooze out, they will get out, and that's why it is known as weeping of gel or syneresis. So remember this term, it is very important term. After that, the third colloidal mixture is emulsion. Previously I have discussed emulsion means liquid in liquid. Liquid in liquid, both are immiscible, they will not dissolve properly, they will form two layers, and that layer can be easily visible. And on the basis of this, the emulsion can be classified into two parts. One is oil in water. This is how we represent oil in water, means water is in large quantity, oil is in lesser quantity. The another one is water in oil. Oil is in larger quantity and water is in lesser quantity. And if we talk about the examples of this, so oil in water example is milk, because milk has nearly 85% water and certain amount of fat is being dissolved. So the milk is oil in water emulsion. And if I talk about water in oil, so the example is butter. Butter is majority of oil and little bit amount of water is being dissolved in this. So butter is the example of water in oil. And also please search for various other examples. This question is also very important as a point of view of exams, because a lot of time questions being asked, various options will be given to you and you will have to find out which example is for oil in water emulsion, which is for water in oil emulsion. So keep this point also in mind, it is also very important. And keep in mind that formation of emulsion is not very easy. You and me at home cannot just mix two liquids and form emulsion. No, that is not possible, because in that case both the layers will get separate out because their surface tension is different. So we need certain additives which can reduce the surface tension, which can reduce the interfacial tension, and so that both of the layers can remain mixed together. So that's how emulsions are formed. For this purpose, there are so many additives which are known as emulsifiers. Emulsifiers, they are known as emulsifiers. And about these emulsifiers, how they work, what is their mechanism, how they actually help in the stabilization of emulsions, we will be discussing all these in very detail in food additives. So for now, just remember that emulsifiers are used as stabilizers for emulsion. After emulsion, we will be talking about foam. Foam means when we incorporate gas in liquid, so foam will be formed. And the examples are whipped cream, ice cream, cake, bread. All the way we have to incorporate gas into liquid so that it can give a fluffy and a very porous structure. So there we need foam. Also, formation of foam is also not easy. Yes, we can incorporate air, that is a slightly easy process, but yes, mechanical energy is required in that. But foam is not very stable. The gas molecules get collapse after certain time, and then the foam will get destabilized. And for the stability of foam, we use foaming agents. And their mechanism, their example, again we will be discussing in food additives. So for now, just remember this term, foaming agent. We need foaming agents to stabilize foam, but not always we need foam to take place. In certain there are certain examples where we need to stop foaming, and for that reason we need anti-foaming agents. Their work is just opposite to foaming agent. Foaming agent stabilize the foam, while anti-foaming destabilize the foam. There are certain instances in food industry where we do not require foaming to take place. For example, whenever we extract the fruit juice, when we make concentrations of fruit juice, during coffee extract, during vegetable oil or syrup making, or in various fermentation process. In fermentation process, a lot of carbon dioxide gas is being released, so there are so many foaming take place at the surface. So we need to stop foaming in those stages. So at that point we need anti-foaming agent, so that the quality of the food cannot be deteriorated by foam. So there we need anti-foaming agents. So these were the properties of certain colloidal mixtures, and these are very common colloidal mixtures because food is being present in all these forms. So with this we have completed the topic 1 of food fundamentals, that is properties of food. We have covered physical properties of solutions and physical properties of colloidal mixtures. I hope this topic has been clear to you all. If there is any doubt, you can ask in a comment section. I will entertain all those. And yes, in this video I have used only English language because in the last lecture I have got certain comments that whenever I use both English and Hindi, so certain students are there who lost their concentration when I switch from one language to another suddenly. So I have tried to make this video whole in English. So if you are having any feedback to this, please let me know in the comment section. And yes, the next video will be MCQ based questions, in which I will be coming up with most probable questions from this topic, as well as the previous year questions which have been asked in certain exams from this topic. So do not miss that video, and for that do not forget to subscribe to the channel so that you can get the notification when I upload that video. And please share this video with your classmates and your friends so that they can also be benefited. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.